Good afternoon and welcome to the closing press conference of the Second World Summit for Social Development here in Doha, Qatar. My name is Samaan. I'm with the United Nations Department of Global Communications. We have interpretation available if you need it, English to Arabic. The headsets are outside. Over the past 3 days, the World Summit has produced concrete outcomes, including the adoption of the Doha Political Declaration. Leaders, experts, youth, and civil society have gathered to share concrete strategies to explore how we tackle poverty, inequality, and social exclusion, and how to ensure no one is left behind. We are honored to have 3 distinguished leaders here with us today: the President of the 80th session of the UN General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock, UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, and Permanent Representative of the State of Qatar to the United Nations, Her Excellency Sheikha Alya bin Saif Al Thani. PGA, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon. Thank you for covering the World Summit for Social Development and welcome to our all-female press conference. Let me start by thanking the host, Qatar. Doha has become an important meeting place for dialogue, mediation, and especially international conferences over the last years. And now, at these last days, for an extremely important Second World Social Summit, or Summit for Social Development. And thank you so much, dear excellencies, but also the government, the whole government, and the Emir of Qatar. Copenhagen has taught us 30 years ago that social development and inclusion is essential for strong societies. With the Doha Declaration now, we promise to leave no one behind and social justice and guarantee dignity for everyone. Because over the years, without question, there has been remarkable progress. However, it has been uneven and unequal. In too many places around the world, a child goes to bed hungry, a young person cannot attend school, and men and women search for employment, wondering how they will build a life when there are too few opportunities to earn a living. It has shown that economic growth alone has been insufficient to pull people in all regions out of poverty. Today's hunger crisis stems not from scarcity, but from conflict, inequality, and political failures. We therefore have to address the structural causes that in a world of plenty still leave so many people with limited prospects in life, not because of their efforts, but because of the circumstances in which they were born. The Second World Summit for Social Development therefore calls for a global financial architecture that is fit for the 21st century, tackles debt burden, boosts international funds, and removes unnecessary restrictions that stifle innovation as outlined in the Seville Commitment. It also underlines that peace and security is crucial for fighting hunger and poverty, and that the SDGs are all interconnected. Yet, one of the biggest problems is not money as such, it is rather how it is invested. And I would like to underline, social development is not a nice to have, nor an act of charity, but it is in the self-interest of every country, even the strongest economic powers, because it's on the one hand one of the smartest investments we can make to support peace and security and human rights, and on the other hand, in a globalized world, a crisis in one part of the world will always affect the other parts of the world as well. In this regard, we need to urgently address one of the single largest obstacles facing our pursuit of social development, the climate crisis. Overall, at this summit, 30 years after the first social summit, countries have recognized that the time for talk is over. This event marks a deliberate shift from looking at the problem to acting on proven solutions and learning from each other. We know what the problems are and what needs to be done. What we lack are effective policies and political will to implement them. And this is why this summit this week was so unique, because this summit focused on concrete solutions that are scalable and that they have the potential to lift millions out of poverty and increase social inclusion and integrate it to leave no one behind. This means joining forces with civil society and businesses and delivering once and for all on the promise of gender equality, because without women there will be never social justice and never lasting peace. This summit has underlined that women's representation matters everywhere, not only at AI companies for programming algorithms without biases, but also in politics, as we have to admit, unfortunately also saw from the official family photo of this summit. While today is the closing of the Second World Summit for Social Development, this is not an ending. It is the beginning of delivering on the last mile to achieve the SDGs by 2030, and it's also a handover to the climate conference in Belém, the COP, which is just starting in these hours, underlining that all 17 SDGs are heavily interconnected, and without social justice, there will never be peace and security, but without fighting the climate crisis, there will never be social justice and peace overall. I thank you.
Thank you, PGA. We now hand over the floor to the DSG. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, distinguished guests. Let me also join Madam President, our President of the General Assembly, in expressing deep appreciation to the government and the people of Qatar and to the leadership of Her Excellency Sheikha Alya Thani. I also want to recognize the courage and commitment of all the actors who came here this week: civil society, academia, community leaders, trade unions, faith actors, philanthropic partners, and the private sector. You brought evidence and experience and challenged us to stay true to the people that we serve. The advocacy that we've had in this meeting in this last few days and the leadership from our constituents have helped us to secure a strong outcome from the summit. The summit has been focused and pragmatic across plenaries and round tables. We've looked at what will it take to rebuild trust, but also to strengthen social protection, expand access to systems of education and health, and to support decent work and the renewed social contract. The message has been clear. People expect us to deliver answers, not simply declarations. They expect fairness and they expect results. The Doha Political Declaration reflects that spirit. It is not a document for the shelves. It's a commitment to place people at the center of sustainable development, but it also promises to deliver results that can be seen and felt in daily life. As the Secretary General has said, it's a people's plan. Now the work begins. First, we must accelerate efforts to tackle poverty and inequality. Second, we must build the real jobs and the real opportunity of the future. And third, a people's plan must include all people. We must leave no one behind. Finally, I'd like to thank the co-facilitators of Morocco and Belgium for guiding what has been an ambitious and consensus-based negotiation. We found common ground. We've upheld multilateralism at its best. Member states and partners, we leave Doha with clarity, implementation, and more implementation. We're building on the momentum of the pact and, of course, the 2030 agenda. We've opened the door in Doha. Now we must walk through it together. Thank you once again.
Thank you, DSG. Ambassador Al-Thani, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, dear members of the press. I'm very much pleased to be here alongside the President of the General Assembly and Deputy Secretary General. Today marks the closing, of course, of this historic Second World Summit for Social Development. The summit has been truly historic, not only because it gathered leaders and policymakers from across the world here in Doha, but because it renewed a global commitment to placing people, families, and communities at the center of sustainable development. Over 40 heads of states and governments and over 230 ministers and senior officials and 8,000 participants overall have taken part in this summit in person. This summit, the largest of its kind in 3 decades, brought together as well heads of international organizations, youth, civil society, academia, the business sector, and delegates from around the world. Over 250 side events known as solution sessions took place, organized to promote dialogue, partnerships, and practical solutions for advancing social development. For the State of Qatar, it was an honor to host and to contribute to this milestone in the international social development agenda. Throughout the summit, the State of Qatar underscored its firm belief that social development grounded in equality, inclusion, and dignity is essential to peace, prosperity, and human progress. As well, during the summit, Qatar showcased the many initiatives and policies that reflect our national commitments, making remarkable strides in strengthening the foundation for our social fabric. Through comprehensive social protection systems, family-oriented policies, empowerment programs, the government of the State of Qatar, through its different ministries and bodies, and in particular, the Ministry of Social Development and the Family, continues to ensure that women, youth, persons with disabilities, and older persons have access to opportunities, services, and support. Beyond our borders, Qatar's efforts continue through our international partnership, notably via the Qatar Fund for Development and Education Above All Foundation, which extend support to millions around the world through education, health, and livelihood programs. These initiatives reflect Qatar's conviction that investing in people is the most sustainable investment a nation can make. Just to give some figures, from 2022 to 2024, we have provided over 4.8 billion in foreign aid, 1 billion to fight poverty and hunger, $1 billion for education, health, water, and clean energy, and approximately $1 billion from our special drawing rights to IMF funds dedicated to poverty reduction and resilience. At the heart of the summit was the adoption of the Doha Political Declaration on Social Development. This political declaration reflects a collective commitment to reinvigorate multilateralism and accelerate social development that leaves no one behind. It renews the world determination to strengthen efforts in poverty eradication, decent work, social inclusion, and universal social protection, while advancing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It calls for universal, gender-responsive social protection, equitable access to health and education. It also reaffirms the link between social development, peace, and security, recognizing that sustainable progress is one underpin the others. Among its key priorities is the commitment to advance innovative solutions and inclusive international cooperation to achieve social development for all, particularly for developing countries. As we conclude this historic summit today, the State of Qatar believes the next steps must focus on three important priorities: turning the commitments made here into action by ensuring that social development remains at the top of national and international agendas, building strong international cooperation to share knowledge, mobilize financing, and support countries most in need of assistance, leveraging innovation and digital transformation to make social services more accessible, efficient, and equitable for all. The outcomes of this summit, including the Doha Political Declaration, provides a strong foundation for a new era of global solidarity. But what matters most now is the implementation of the political declaration. The State of Qatar remains fully committed to working with all partners to carry forward the spirit of this gathering, to ensure that progress on social development continues long after the summit has ended, and I thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you to our speakers. We now open up the floor to questions from the press. Otherwise, we will conclude this press conference. Thank you so much. Please stay for a few minutes. We will have the launch of the Spotlight Initiative report with the DSG. And I'll just also follow up with a quick note on what's happening on the climate front. The COP30 Leaders Summit will kick off today on 6 November in Belém, Brazil, bringing together around 60 heads of state, UN Secretary General will deliver a speech at the opening, 11 a.m. local time in Brazil. The formal opening of COP30 takes place on Monday, 10 November. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.